Second time I'm reading it, but this is my response on the news article as I see the stuff that's coming in. So, California homelessness, alright. Okay, here's the thing about San Francisco homelessness. The thing about homelessness in San Francisco is such a dense city. Regardless of whether you're on the streets, or you live in the buildings, or you have a job there, or you're taking the public transit, you're just visiting, everybody is forced out kind of on the streets and forced to meddle. So the reason why the density of so many homeless people in San Francisco seems so high is because they're occupying the public space, which there is so little of. That's why. It's not that San Francisco has such an abhorrent homeless problem, it's that San Francisco has the most visible homeless problem because there is so little space. And so when somebody's occupied basically forced to occupy the space that is left behind, the public space, well then of course, there are going to be a lot more people there. Not that there's more people, but they're just more dense. Okay, how about this? I've never been to Oakland, so I really can't say anything about Oakland. I guess moving through, videoing a jungle at the speed of traffic is okay, or getting an aerial shot is okay, as long as you could zoom in close enough to actually see what's going on. But I think, even if you're filming somebody, like imagine you're just filming somebody and you end up just putting a camera in their backyard, they'd be pretty pissed. And while they don't own the space, they do have a certain right to space, even if they don't own it. So maybe before videoing people, you have to ask their permission, just basic shit. It's kind of like a deconstructed version of property, which it does periodically before it's cleared again. Okay, so this is actually a huge problem. So you're on the street, you finally got a bed, you got a lamp, you finally got a stove, you walk away, let's say to go to an interview, and then you come back to the camp and there's nothing there. Everybody's gone. Everybody that you form relationships and connections with, they're gone. All your friends are gone. They're at a different encampment now. All your stuff, it's gone. And I have to spend another month trying to gather all the basic stuff again. Clearing encampments is the stupidest shit ever. It is like so backwards. Because you basically keep up when encampments aren't cleared. When encampments are cleared, it basically keeps people inside of a cycle of desperation and poverty, which will, of course, lead them to a life of crime when they see that society has repeatedly destroyed everything that they own and has no recourse or mercy for it, or consequences. Yes, they'll turn to a life of crime. I think it's actually justified. Moving on. So clearing out encampments is completely counterproductive for the cities that do it. They think they're making life more hostile, but they're just making the people more criminally oriented. It's just dumb. Don't clear an encampment out. Maybe develop an encampment. Or maybe, have somebody in there to enforce standards, or to kick specific people out that aren't following their standards. But the idea of just clearing people out en masse and then hoping that the area is going to stay clear is just absolutely the stupidest shit ever. And on top of that, homeless people essentially occupy public space. It's what we do. It's the only space that we are, basically allowed to occupy. But this public space is a public good. This public space helps everybody. By turning public space into an Orwellian hell pit, it doesn't just hurt the homeless people, it hurts everybody. So when they try to wage a war against homeless people, they're essentially waging a war against public goods, which ultimately will just hurt everybody who's in there. And then they'll wonder why their land is a capitalistic hell pit. Well, it's because they made anything that wasn't capitalist essentially legal. Via, hunting down the people that embody these public good things. The homeless people that embody these public good things. Again, I haven't seen Oakland. I've never been to Oakland before, so I really can't judge it. I've been in San Francisco, I've been in the Tenderloin, but I don't know what Oakland's like. Here we go. It's pretty sad to see people take part in infrastructure to support themselves, but whatever. Yeah, so this is like a miniature version of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. The people that could move, moved. And people that couldn't, they just made them more desperate. What a absolutely spectacular move. Just taking somewhat desperate people and making them extremely desperate. That's what good city planning does. Fucking retards. Whatever. They're insistent on being somewhere rather than nowhere, as if that's a fucking choice. That's absolutely insane. So this just highlights the mentality. The privileged mentality of somebody being so deluded that they think somebody can just decide to become nowhere. It's like they don't decide to be nowhere, they decide to go home. When they're home, they're not in the world. But if they can't go home because they don't have one, well then of course they have to be somewhere. It's just completely ridiculous how little they're able to look above their privilege. Okay, they're trying to make a distinction between doing something and being something, which is a little bit absurd, because somebody could pick apples, but they can also be an apple farmer. But to pick apples is to be an apple farmer. To live on the streets is to be homeless. Those are almost the same fucking thing. And so trying to split this up into definitions is a little bit dumb, I think. And I've been in those shelters. They're not good. Here we go. It's to make it uncomfortable enough to the city so they want to move down the road. That doesn't work. That doesn't fucking work. That literally does not work. And then they wonder why the crime goes up. They wonder why that shit happens. When you punish an already desperate group of people over and over and over again, and then they wonder why the crime rate goes up. Yeah, I've been to Tenderloin. The drug use in there is absolutely insane. No comment on that. I don't take drugs, so I really can't comment on that either. I can't comment on Oakland. I can't comment on drug abuse. Not really. These people would like some of San Francisco's homeless. These people would like to move some of San Francisco's homeless down the road. See, this right here. This sentence is the problem. This sentence and this sentence. These two sentences are the problem with the perspective of this article. Okay? The idea that the homeless people are moved rather than move. It doesn't say these people would like some of San Francisco's homeless to move somewhere down the road. They say these people would like to move some of San Francisco's homeless down. They take the agency out of the person moving. They take the agency. These are people to be operated on. These are people to be shuttled and like pinned in by bureaucratic bullshit. Like they don't have judgment or abilities to make their decisions on their own, which is completely absurd. And then they wonder why bad things happen. Well, because they're taking these articles just take away their agency. And just basic human fucking biology. If somebody has a chance to have a better life, they will probably pursue that better life, because that's how humans are kind of wired. We want to be happy creatures. We don't want to be miserable. And so, of course, they would move themselves. But articles like this, they say, well, no, they need to be moved. It's just such a terrible perspective. And really, it's counter to their cause. That's the worst part. It's counter to what they're actually trying to accomplish. Here we go. They do a demographic breakdown. Okay, here I actually have a problem with this section too. Okay, so this idea that homeless people can be native to an area or not. I remember there was this young guy. He was homeless in Fresno for like 2 years, and he said he knew every single inch of the city. When a person becomes homeless, they become part of the street, and so they become a native there, essentially. It doesn't make sense to kind of delineate too much between people that came and then came from, because that distinction ultimately does not matter. This is a bad metric. It's like trying to separate the Venezuelans in Chicago versus the Hispanics who are just entrenched in the Hispanic culture here. It just doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. They end up merging into the same entity. Like, it just... I mean, there might be a lot of people pissed off at that, but they end up merging. The homeless people that move in and the homeless people that have been there their whole lives, they will merge into one entity. This is a meaningless distinction. Because the level of locality it takes to be a homeless person. You have to be hyper-local all the time. And so that'll eventually, essentially, like, just balance itself out. Okay, that's good. Minimizing enforcement of crimes related to drugs and homelessness. You don't want to punish somebody for being desperate. You want to punish somebody for making bad decisions, but not for being desperate. There's a huge difference. And especially in San Francisco, the people that are moving the billions of dollars of funding. When I was in San Francisco, the people that are moving the billions of dollars of funding for these homeless projects don't know what they're doing. And I understand. I've talked to them. I've seen them. But they don't know what they're doing. They're not on the ground. They're like in a different class. So long as that class divide exists internally, so long as they internally other, you really can't have an effective social worker, or not a truly effective social worker, if they say, I am abhorrently terrified of being in the position of the people that I'm helping out. Because they'll always other them. They'll always have this ick factor. And until they can get over the ick factor, they're just not going to be able to be very much help. So those billions of dollars are just going to get wasted. Not because of malice or corruption, which there's plenty of, but just because there is a necessary perspective shift that has to happen before that money can be used wisely. Here we go. Shopkeepers trying to keep their little businesses alive. Parents want children. Okay, so these are all local. These are all local issues. Here again is the issue. They're trying to separate the economically productive people from the economically non-productive people. And so, yes, it's important to not have invisible homeless people. Yes, it is important to have shopkeepers with businesses that are alive. Yes, it is important to have children walk the streets while safe. These are all important things. These are not contradictory goals. These are all serving the people. The homeless people, the parents, and the shopkeepers. They are all the people. If they don't have that perspective, they cannot make good legislation. They just can't. Yeah, this article is just full of so much disgusting othering. I appreciate their efforts to understand the issue, but they are not understanding the issue. This is a hit and a miss. It's not that not wanting to step in human feces is morally frivolous. It's wanting to destroy an entire group of people. That is morally fucked up. It's not frivolous, it's fucked up. Okay, here's the issue. Okay, someone say, oh, the problem with homeless people is their lack of homes. The problem with the homeless people is drug addiction. The problem with homeless people is mental illness. The problem with homeless people is increasing house prices. The problem with homeless people is the gentrification of society. The problem with homeless people is split between the rich and the poor. It's all the above. It's all of them. All of them are the problem with homeless people. Homeless people have a lot of fucking problems. That's what makes it so hard to fix as a social issue. It's almost like homeless people are almost like a metric of how good the system or the government or the policies are. If there's a lot of homeless people, that means there's something generally wrong with a lot of the policies. If there's a very small number of homeless people, that means somebody at the top is doing a very good job. And so it's not a single issue. It's not poverty or housing or drug addiction or mental illness. It's all of them. And so to solve the issue of homeless people, you just have to run a better society. That's it. For everybody. Not just homeless people, but for everybody. And that's kind of what I'm saying. It's for the people. Having a public space helps everybody. Having housing that's affordable helps everybody. Having a culture that accepts people even when they're mentally having breakdowns, that helps everybody. That doesn't just help homeless people, that helps everybody. If you help everybody enough, what do you know? Homeless people suddenly, they don't need to exist anymore. If you want to solve homelessness, you got to look at every little thing that you're doing and say, okay, how can I do it better? And not just for the sake of profit, just trying to make a better world, period. That will solve it. But these fucking capitalists are just so horny for the money, they can't see anything past it. Yeah, it's an integrative problem. Society has a lot of integrations. And when people don't fit those integrations, suddenly you get homeless people. That's what happens. It's a very specific system to follow, and if you can't follow it, you get booted out. And so no shit. It's almost like a simplification bias. Like, it's like if you're on top of a boat. Let's say you're in a boat, and you see the boat is floating on the water, and you say, okay, this is a boat, and it's full of air. It's full of air and metal, and it's floating on the water. It's simple. It's just a thing that floats on air and water. It's a little thing it's a little metal bubble that has air, and that's how it floats in the water. But if you talk to like the captain or the engineer, they say, "Oh no, this is a very complicated ship. This is a vessel. This is not just a bubble of metal. This is a special kind of marine alloy. This is a special kind of paint. This is a special kind of propeller. This is a special kind of engine. This is a special kind of GPS navigation system." They'll see all the details. And so when you have, I'm going to call them normies for now, when you have normies kind of look at homelessness, they don't understand just how complicated and integrated and complex the system they're residing in is. And so when somebody doesn't, fit in that system, they see, oh, there's this and this and this wrong, but they don't understand they're riding on top of an incredibly complicated Dr. Seuss like Rube Goldberg machine that gives them support. And without that Rube Goldberg machine, they basically fall into the dichotomy of it's part of my society or it's not. But the truth is there's like a million different ways it can go down. Like there's a million different ways to get something to float on the water. It's not just there's the boat and then there's not the boat. It's either you're on the boat or you're in the water. No, you could be on the boat or in the air. You could be on the boat or in a submarine. You could be on the boat or... You could be in the water or in a submarine or on a plane or on a raft or on top of a whale. There's a lot of things other than the boat, but when people are from the boat, they just see there's the boat and there's not the boat, and they don't see all the complicated things that made the boat the way it is. And this just drips in that energy, where they're trying to simplify it down to a single cause, and it's like, no, the reason why people are homeless is because they don't fit in a jigsaw-like society. They don't fit like a jigsaw piece in a complicated society. And, of course, when you have such a complex society, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with fitting inside of it. This is important. This is actually really important. Yeah, a guy who smells like garbage talking to themselves is absolutely terrifying. Yeah, because of the othering, but also because, well, no shit. That's what happens. This is just basic if-then consequent behavior. And then for some reason, these poor people are held to an entirely fucking different standard. We're not allowed to shit. We're not allowed to pee. We're not allowed to do the most basic human shit because we're doing it in a way that society deems unacceptable. It's just fucking insane. But this is it right here. They break it down. Oh yeah, this is super hypocritical. When you have like a liberal person who doesn't understand just how much they're just entrenched in the system that they claim to hate. Yeah, so this is actually a repeating history. Back in the slave days of America, a lot of the people from New York and the North, politically they'd be abolitionists. But when it actually came to receiving the slaves in their cities, they actually hated them. It's really ironic. This seems very similar level of irony. Now that is a problem. People that come into a city that becomes economically prosperous and then drive up the prices for everyone. That is an issue. You have to ask yourself, as a legislator or as somebody who's running that city, how much do you care about the identity of your city staying the same way it is? Versus how much do you want to embrace change? And are these changes in their city a good thing? If Apple moves in the backyard and makes everybody pay $1 million per home and $1 million a rent, yes, that's good for economic growth. Yes, that brings a lot of the most innovative people in the world into your backyard. But that also means your backyard's no longer going to be the same. You lose that culture, you lose the people. And is that important to you? Which one's more important? Your identity or economic growth? And there's no wrong answer. But they had to ask themselves that question and act on it. Okay, there's this thing called white flight, right? Or rich flight. Where a bunch of rich people move into a neighborhood. And then they see the areas going down, and then they all leave. And so when they went into the neighborhood, it's a lot like a homeless guy, They go into the neighborhood, they cause a bunch of economic instability, and they realize it's not for them, and they leave. Now, the jobs they affected are fucked. The things they affected are fucked. The people and the communities they ripped apart, they're fucked. And they just leave and go live somewhere else. And that's a lot like a homeless guy. going into an area, taking a shit in the corner, leaving a bunch of garbage everywhere, and then just leaving. Because, oh, now they're getting kicked out by the property people. It's really the same thing. But the people that engage in this white flight shit, they don't really bear any of the consequences. But the homeless guy, who makes a mess of his thing, and they leave, they have to bear the consequences of their actions. And there's something a bit fucked up with that. Is if they're rich, they can just kind of get away with whatever the fuck they want to do. And whatever communities they want to destroy, they get to. That's fucked. This is especially insidious. If I ever become rich, I'd like to do something that's very similar to what happened with the founding of, like, Giving Tree Bank in India, where they found all these people in debt, and they just kind of, like, bought them their own shit. Where this guy was able to, like, clear an entire village's debt with, like, $7.18 of money. And this is my favorite part of the article. I'm a homeless guy. I know this subject better than this Matt Feeney ever fucking could. I would like to leave a comment on Matt Feeney's article. But I can't leave a comment on Matt Feeney's article because in order to join the discussion, all these fucking pixel people talking about these little subjects, I have to be a paid subscriber to join this discussion. So this rich fuck is writing about a class of people, and I, belonging to that class of people, can't even respond to his shit. Now that is fucked. And that summarizes the entire mentality behind this article. That summarizes my mentality of it. My perspective on how this guy sees this issue and how well he could write about or not write about this issue is he can write all these words that I spent all this time reading about my people, and I can't even say anything back. That is absolutely fucked up. And it's not because he meant to. It's not because he meant to exclude my group of people from the discussion. No. It's even worse. Is that my group of people are intrinsically excluded from this internet discussion simply by being poor. And that's like 99% of the issues of homeless people. Is you are by default excluded. And so, of course, the people having the discussions about you will not know what the fuck you're talking about. This is the perfect summary of the entire level of bullshit that this article exudes. Alright. Thanks for listening, guys, if you were there or not. Bye. Bye.